Springer, don't start throwing chairs and don't start telling all your business, all right? Okay, but other than that, we'll be good. So I'm going to turn it over to Lady D. Let's give her a hand. Let's give this panel a hand that she's getting ready to introduce.
All right, good morning. I thank you all so much for coming and sharing with us today. I'm going to have the panel guests introduce themselves and what they do and what district they're from, and then we'll go from there.
Good morning. My name is Rosalind Brown. I'm in Fort Bend District. I had a pleasure to work with LaToya last year at Jane Schiff Elementary. Now I'm at Goodman Elementary. I'm certified EC through 4. I have a master's in curriculum and instruction, reading education, and I've been teaching 15 years.
Hello, my name is Aladwina Townsend. I work at Tinsley Elementary in Houston Independent School District. I'm a resource teacher, and I'm also the special ed department chair at my school, so I represent the special ed department.
I'm Laquita Small. Right now, I'm at Tinsley Elementary as a counselor. This is my 3rd year as a counselor, but I've been teaching for 10, and I'm with Houston Independent School District.
Good morning, everyone. I am Catherine Grant Alexis. I work for Channelview ISD at B.H. Hamlin Elementary School. I teach 2nd grade. I am the ELL teacher. That means I teach reading, language arts, and social studies. And I teach, so I don't have to do all the rest. So I have been teaching for 12 years. I went to Texas Southern University with LaToya, go TSU, and Laquita. And that's it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm LaKenya Perry Wilson, the coordinator of secondary curriculum for grades 7 through 12. This is my, 15th year in education. I've been in the position as coordinator for 2 years, but I was the dean of instruction before that for Stafford MSD. And I just got to say, go PVU.
Yes,
Nate.
All right, we'll start off with the first question, parents and grandparents, and then we're going to pass the mic to you. So get your questions ready. Okay, so the biggest question I know that I get from my parents is, what happens when my child is struggling? What can I do at home? My child is struggling. We're in a parent conference, and you're telling me that little Johnny is struggling. What can I do? Anybody?
Okay, I'll take it. First, the most important thing you should do if your child is struggling, you need to basically be able to figure out what exactly they're struggling in and how long it takes them to do a certain task. And ask the teacher, in particular, what exactly is his habits in the classroom and what do they see as a deficiency. And if it matches up basically with what you see at home and doing homework, you can ask for different tips and techniques that they use, and you can try to mirror those same things in the home. And so if at that time those things look the same, then you ask for different strategies. And if that teacher doesn't have it, then you ask her to ask her peers, you ask some of your friends and family, and see where it goes from there.
Okay, and also to add to that, if they continue to struggle, then you might want to ask the teacher, well, have they been entered into the RTI process? And I'm laughing because she says I'm obsessed with RTI IAT, but it's a big push this year in the district, so I just want to make sure that you are aware of, your rights as a parent, because the RTI, your school should have an RTI IAT process. Okay, so the RTI process is the response to intervention, and the IAT is the team that helps to kind of problem solve those issues, say, should it go any further. So in RTI, the kids are entered into tiers. And so the most critical tier will be tier 2 and 3. in which the children are to be receiving extra help outside of the classroom. Okay, and so you might want to ask your teachers, questions like that. Well, where is my child in the RTI process? Or how can I enter my child into the RTI process?
If I could add, pretend like every day is the first day of school, and be proactive, meaning that for a school to be successful, it takes the community, the parents, and the school. If you miss any parts of that equation, then you don't have a successful school, which means you won't have a successful child. And so be proactive, meaning that come like every day is the first day of school, because on the first day of school, we'll have everyone showed up, the hair is pressed, they have on new clothes, but then by October? No one is there. So if by the time you receive a report card, that's too late, okay? So be involved. They have all kinds of systems, Remind Me 101, Class Dojo, meaning that it's actively communicating daily with your child. So know exactly what your child is learning in the classroom. And so by the time they have to do a response to intervention, that is too late, okay? And so be proactive is my number one advice.
And I want to add one little thing to that. Since I am a reading teacher, I really, really focus on reading. And what I do as parent involvement, I tell my parents, help read with your child at home. Also help your child read. Let your child read. You can read together with them. And one thing I tell them, reading is not just reading. You have to ask them questions. And you have to ask them high order thinking questions, because that's one thing that ever since I've been teaching, the administrators always tell us that don't just ask your child what color is the bus. The bus is yellow. You want to ask them questions like, why is the bus yellow? Who created the bus? If you could create the bus, what would you do differently? Helping your child think outside of the box. That's why I brought my little notes here. Because I really, I want my parents to help them to do that, because, we'll just ask our kids little simple questions, and then their mind is never thinking. It's idle. You want them to, I always tell my kids, like I say, the biggest thing, think outside of the box. Don't just tell me the bus is yellow. Give me more, think more, because, now it's like they are not thinking. If they say, oh, Miss Grant, where is I don't have a chair. And I ask them, okay, well, what are you going to do about that? Don't expect me to just come to you and say, hey, the chair is over there. Find the chair. You need to think, So that's it. Thank you.
I want to add to that, the RTI process is a great process that goes along, but the teacher has a responsibility in notifying the parent, letting the parent know that this child will be getting this type of service how many times a week. But as parents, I would also encourage you to follow up on that. Make sure, come in and send a message, an email to that teacher, how is it going? And there should be a process, after so many weeks, you come together as a team and you review the status that your child is at. If you're not happy, that is a procedure. You can always go from the principal to the counselor to even the teacher, and any other resource that you think that is not, that are available to the school. But I would always say do a follow-up check. Don't just let that, just get one letter. Just keep checking with the teacher. And a lot of times the teacher, the homeroom teacher, is not providing the RTI, is using another teacher on that team. So you want to make sure that you stay connecting with the whole team.
So thinking on that, the RTI process and having everyone involved and, having a successful student, like Ms. Grant was saying, having the students think outside the box. So with critical thinking, how is critical thinking used in your classroom? Or what can you say to parents about critical thinking, even at home, like you're saying, have them, don't just ask, is the bus yellow? So what type of activities or what type of things can the parents do to help their child at home with those higher order thinking skills?
Okay, for me, what I would tell my parents to do at home, they can, I may have like a project for the child to do. They can think of their own project. How are they going to create it? You know, what are you going to add to it? How are you going to make that creation work? You know, if you want to make create your own bicycle, what would you put together to make that bicycle? How would you make the wheels, roll? Kind of do things like that, let them be creative, because that's the only way they're going to be able to use their brain for thinking, and not letting you as the parent, like some parents who, we'll send home projects for the kids to do, and the parent does everything. They don't let the child do anything. They don't let them think. They just say, they say, Mom, I have a project on Dr. Martin Luther King. Okay, well, they just find it on the internet, paste it for the child. The child don't do nothing. They just show up at school. They haven't did anything. They haven't even gave them opportunity to even think, about anything, So I would encourage parents, if the child has something to do, let them kind of create it on their own. They say if it is Dr. Martin Luther King, have them to, maybe do their own research. You kind of help them and guide them, but let them be creative about how they gonna form him, add to what did he do? What if you was Dr. Martin Luther King, what would you do different?
And I also think real world experiences is like the most beneficial thing that you can do with your child. I know that a lot of times we have a disconnect with our kids, and with our kids we say, well, they don't understand how much things cost and this thing. Even with kids as small as 6 or 7 years old, you can teach that component of just life and literacy of finances and things of that nature, and you just basically ask them to develop a budget at the age of 5 or 6. Teach them the value of money. You ask them what do they want, and you give them a scale on how to get it. So for example, if your kiddo wants maybe, I don't know, iPad for Christmas, okay, and they're like 7 years old, now that's a lot of money, but you set up chores and systems of how much it would cost, and you have them to tabulate that and work towards their goal, and then that teaches them that in this world we have to do a certain task to get what we want, and so you have to do that with every little thing. It doesn't matter, washing clothes, sorting, what colors, it starts at a very young age, and when you facilitate that into their mind, they're constantly thinking, and then when they come to school, things are automatic. They don't have to worry about things, and then the teachers can tell, and then you can tell that your child is whole. Yes. If you do those things.
If I could add to the piece that you're saying, the real world experience, because in order for a child to get to critical thinking, you have to add to their prior knowledge bank, meaning that it's either through traveling, and I know we all can't go on an Alaskan cruise, but it may be even traveling to Louisiana or somewhere in Texas, San Antonio. Talk about the history there. Also, if you go to a movie, when you leave the movie, talk about it. Talk about the setting and the plot that happened in the movie. Go to different restaurants. Go to the museums. Go to culture events that they have in Houston. And when you add to their prior knowledge bank, then that's how they can bring it all together and do skills like inferencing and things that they have to do critical thinking. Because when you can't, it's one thing to read about it, it's another thing to go there, And so when you can take your child to places and give them the experiences, you don't know how big that is. And even just going to San Antonio, you got the Alamo there. It's so much you can talk about, and it helps them with their writing and their creative thinking. So just remember, as you're riding in the car, just talk to your kids and put down the cell phones and allow them to have some real world conversations, and you will find out that will increase critical thinking.
Another thing I do, even with the younger kids, I do an entrance inventory. So I have so many questions that I interview and ask them. So then that provides me to let me know that what I need to do to give them resources, to give them what they need to be critical thinkers. And you'd be surprised at the answers. Like I may ask them, okay, what is your favorite movie? What is your favorite actor? And after asking, it's more than about 10 to 12 questions I ask, even the 6-year-olds. And you'd be surprised with the answer they give you. And then from there, you develop, because every child is different, so you develop that, okay, this child likes all these things, so I make sure as a parent or even as a teacher that I'm going to provide all these things for these kids to provide critical thinking, to motivate, to problem solve, to complete the whole child.
Can we have questions from the audience, please? Parents, grandparents?
All right, for those of y'all who just came in, if anybody who has questions or whatever, like this is open discussion, open forum. This is, doesn't have to be just sit and get, this is an interactive conversation. So anything you want to know, by all means, please ask. Okay? And like I tell the students all the time, the only stupid question it is the one that hadn't been asked. I tell my kids that all the time. So feel free.
For questions in the audience.
I believe one of the panelists is a counselor. Yes. So could you explain like what services a counselor offers to the student?
Okay. So as a counselor, sometimes my students might struggle with bullying. That's one of the biggest topics. And bullying, friendship issues. They might struggle in the classroom. If they're older kids, they might be able to express that. But before I'm able to see those students, I also have to get consent from the parent, before I see them, for an extensive time. But as a school counselor, it would not be extensive. That's a little bit different than actual counseling, because what I do, as long as it affects their academics, then I can see them. It's not therapy, but it's like a problem solving where the students are able to express themselves freely. Whatever they share with me is confidential unless they're threatening harm to self or others, and at that time then I would have to disclose. But the students are free to come and speak to me about anything, friendship issues, struggles in the classroom, even at home, for instance, and the kids will share a lot with you. So those are I hope I answered your question.
If I could add one thing for the higher level grades, I want to say, and all those things apply for the higher level grades as well, but I want to say the counselor in high school, that should be your best friend, because they know all the scholarships, they know all what the colleges, the scores that they have to have, etc., all the information. So you want to make sure that your students, the counselor should know your child's name by first and last name, because in high school, that's your go-to person for scholarships and all those kind of things. They know all the information, more than any school administrator would know. So you want to know talk to the counselor.
Okay. What academic standards do schools use, and what do I need to know as a parent about them?
So the academic standards of the state of Texas are the TEKS. And so those are the guidelines in which the teachers have to follow, reaching those standards. Also, in the lower level grades, they have high frequency words. So those are requirements from promotion, I know, for grades 1 and 2. And then also 3 through 12, the children are mandated by the state of Texas to take the START test until they change the name again.
And some campuses and districts have local, what you call local pacing guides, and you can always ask for that information. I think parents don't know that, but you can ask, hey, do you have a calendar that says exactly what you're going to teach from week to week? And every school should have that, And so you want to ask those kind of questions, because that's how you can keep up. Okay, I know you're learning probability this week, or I know you're learning the periodic table, or whatever it is. And so, but those pacing guides are aligned with the TEKS, because we always say we teach the TEKS, because the state tells us exactly what we teach, what we're supposed to teach.
And for example, certain districts have like a reading assessment that is done like 3 times a year, like Fort Bend, it's called DRA, which stands for District Reading Assessment, and your child is assessed 3 times a year, and there's a certain reading level they need to go to a certain grade. For example, like if a first grader is coming first grader, their DRA, which district reading level, needs to be like a 16 in order to go to second grade. Also, throughout the year, we have district math assessments that we're assessing the students on different skills there too. And of course, weekly common assessments that we also, like you said, like the end of the year for first grade, high frequency words. But we do have something in place. It's not like we have the STAR test. We have tests that we're given to build up to the STAR. So we're getting them ready, weekly, or if it's like a district or even the campus assessments.
So with that, the TEKS and the curriculum, that we have to teach as teachers, how is that personalized in your classroom? And if they go to the counselor, what can you, how can you help the parent, or how can you help that student who's struggling? How can you personalize that for them?
Well, as the counselor, a lot of times when the teachers notice those issues, they usually do call the parent-teacher conferences. And a lot of times the teachers do invite me in to sit, I guess, as a mediator in between the parent and the teacher, and kind of make that, the connection with both of them. So I kind of sit in the middle and just kind of observe everything that's going on. And if there's any, other kind of struggles, they usually come out, during that time.
We're doing, in the beginning, when you actually do a district assessment, that's kind of like your baseline for your academics. So when you assessing a child, after you assess your whole class, then you kind of look at, okay, where does this child stand? You have what you call small group instruction. So you're pulling those kids, you're putting all the kids that's on the same level, and you're working with them in a small group. Also, completing the whole child, you do the whole lesson cycle, which is whole group, small group. You're providing them with cooperative learning. You're providing them with daily stations that you're providing that kids go to on their independent level to just reinforcement. For example, like for younger grades, you may have like call it Daily 5. That means read to someone, read to self, technology, working on writing, working on those Daily 5s will, after you finish your whole lesson cycle, then those kids go in there and work on the skills and even reinforce different skills that you've taught in a large group. But daily, you have assessments daily as a teacher, and then you look at all that data and you see that, okay, well, this is not working, so I need to maybe try another different method of teaching. And that's what I usually do. I usually evaluate my data even sometime every 2 weeks, and what I need to do as a teacher to make those kids, or to make sure that those kids meet their goals at the end of the year.
And also, if you have a child that has a learning disability who is either in SPED or just in the general classroom, they have techniques that they do with the students that are significantly below grade level. They still are mandated to take the same STAR test. So what you have to do is you have to get them ready, and you have to prepare them for this test. Sometimes the reality is they may not pass the test, but you have to give them the confidence and the know-how to try, because sometimes they have the ability, but they have not learned how to push towards their potential. And so you have to take it in a manner in which works for them. And those students with disabilities, they have the complete day to finish that test, where other students only have 4 hours. So you start prepping them on how to take the test. Many times with those students is just learning how to take the test, because sometimes they'll get a test and they'll look down on it and they'll be defeated, and before you know it, 45 minutes has passed and they finish with the test. And so we have to empower our kids to not give up on themselves, to know that it is okay that we have different learning styles. and that we can do whatever we put our mind, to do, and that there's a greater power that works within us too, because we are in church, but we have to allow them to know that as well at school. And maybe we can't say certain things, but we do have to stand on the promise that he works within us wherever our environment is. And so I believe, and that's how I tell my kids, and if they don't believe, that's fine, but what I have to make sure is that they know that they're working towards a greater competency than they even imagine that's within themselves.
And I'm sorry. Okay. And what I usually do as a counselor, as soon as I know those moments are about to come up for the students, I usually do thorough lessons, and I allow the kids to share with me, their fears and their emotions. And a lot of times they are scared. A lot of times they do feel like they don't know. And I just try to make that a smooth understanding for them, knowing that, it is just a test. How, even though everybody makes a big deal about it, but that test does not define them. And so my lessons usually, their end result is for them to understand the test does not define who they are.
And I'll add just a little to that. Since I teach second grade and I'm doing ELA, I try to teach my kids the STAR strategies. And I do it each week. Each week we'll read a story. I'll teach them the different strategies on how to answer the question, so therefore when they get to third grade and they have that test in front of them, they won't have such anxiety, because I know for myself, when I take tests, I get anxiety. And a lot of times when you're nervous, you end up defeating your own self. You know you can do it, but then you feeling nervous, so I try to help my kids to be comfortable with what they see, but also give them the tools to help them to think and go through the process so they can answer the question to that particular answer, and that's why I do it every week. And I'm preparing them for third grade, and that's why I tell them, I'm preparing you for third grade, and I tell them, there's no such thing as the word can't. You can do it. I'm going to help you. And I always tell them that the number one thing you have to remember in life, knowledge is power. It helps you do anything. You're just like Superman. You're just like Wonder Woman. You can leap big buildings and you can do big things.
Right.
Questions from the audience, please.
All right. I feel like Montel this morning.
I just want to say, let's go Our Nation, Goodman Elementary. Woo! That's why I work. A question, is there any after-school curriculums or programs that my child, well, I don't have a lot of children, but my children can attend that may be free or reduced, not too much money?
Well, in the school systems, they have a lot of different after-school programs. I know 2 in particular are free to the parent, but it just depends on if the school is enrolled in that after-school program. And if you live within the city of Houston, the city of Houston has a program that is ran through the school called ASAP. And so that is a program that is free, and you have to kind of get in, because if you have a big school, they may, pick and choose, or what have you. But you when you go into schools, and you enroll your kids, the first thing you ask, do you all have an after-school program on site? Is it free to the community? And then the other one is 21st Century. 21st Century is a real popular one. Everybody loves it, and the children are exposed to all different types of things in those after-school programs. But the most important thing to do in your schools, if you're needing that extra time to get your kids to pick them up or what have you, is just ask the school, do you have after-school program, and be very specific and say, is it free?
And also on the secondary level, a lot of schools have a lot of clubs and organizations that are free. You just need to find out exactly what type of clubs and organizations do your school offer, and also find out your child's interests. Because a lot of times, we say, hey, y'all the students, you didn't want to be here all day, and now the bell rung, you won't leave. So we have a lot of programs and stuff going on. It's kind of case by case and site based to find out exactly what your school offers. But that's one of the questions that you need to ask starting next week if you haven't started yet.
And one thing you can ask your district also, what kind of free programs that you can help your child at home, because but it also depends on the school district. My district offers iStation too, and it's a reading program that you can help the kids with at home. You can do phonemic awareness, they can work on vocabulary, they can do comprehension, and what happens with that, me as the teacher, I can give you the password. They have the ID, they have their password, I can send it home with you as the parent, and you can work with your child at home. Even if you don't have a computer at home, you can go to the library. It's free, so you have to ask also what kind of programs does that district offer your child, so you can work with them at home.
I have a good one.
Okay. You have a good one.
Good morning. All right. I'm a father. That's my child. If my child loved me so much, he hated to go to school. He don't want to go to school. So when he go to school, what y'all do to trying to get him started or her started in the program? Because he's already spoiled or she's spoiled. And, you don't necessarily, the kids don't want to go to school. My house screaming and hollering, don't want to go in the room. What y'all do about kids like that?
I was just going to say that usually a lot of times they call for the counselor, and this baby is sprawled out all over the floor, holding on to mom for dear life. And so sometimes I tell the parents, because sometimes I've even seen them take a run away from the parent, away from the school. And so my first thought is safety. And so I tell the parents, if you can get them in here, then we can work with them. And what I usually do is I try to make the child feel very comfortable. First, I got to pry them away from the parent, and I ask the parent if it's okay, because I will have to touch them, And so once I get them, then usually that's for me, since I was an early childhood teacher. Once I do get them, I usually am able to comfort them and try to get an understanding. Now, what I do tell parents after, the student and I have made a connection, I let the parents know that it is their part, and it is very important as well, because what I need them to do is to make the child understand that they are in a safe place, that they will come here every day, this is the routine, and then I will come back and get you. And I also share that same thing with the teachers. So for little bitties like, the ones I have here with me, what the parents do need to understand is that they need to know that there is a process. They have to detach. And I also let the parents know that they also share your fear. So please, be brave, because, we're going to take care of your baby, but also, make them feel comfortable as well. So a lot of times I have to ease the parents' fear before I can get to the kids, because a lot of times they're feeding off, the parent is scared, they're sending their baby, off to a stranger too. So at the same time, I comfort parents, comfort students, and just let them know this is going to be a routine. And sometimes it takes a little longer for others to make that detachment, but just know that it does happen.
What I do is that prior to for any of my students coming for the first day of school, I send a letter home to my parents, tips on the first day of school, and it gives you information about, tell your child that you're dropping off to school, you're going to pick them back up, and I also suggest different books that I'm